Hello there, I'm Lloyd Evans. Welcome to my channel. It's time for another voicemail. This voicemail is from an ex-Jehovah's Witness called David. Let's hear what David has to say.
Hi Lloyd, I first want to thank you for all the videos that you post online. In fact, your interview with Howie Rutledge was the first so-called apostate video that I had watched after reading Crisis of Conscience. And it was the first video I actually got my wife to watch as well. And from that moment on, we both became subscribers. So thank you very much. But I came into the religion in my late 20s. Before that, I was into politics. I used to vote. And since leaving the religion, I've started to get myself back into politics. But something I do notice is the instability in the world, within politics, uh, within, there's so many fractions that go on, and especially in America with the left and the right, and over here as well in the UK. And it almost does go along with the JW narrative about the iron and the clay not mixing. And I just wanted to know what your thoughts are on it, because you've been out of the religion for a number of years, and I'm sort of freshly out. And I do sometimes, I'd like to think my logical part of my brain is saying, no, JWs absolutely have it wrong. But then sometimes when I watch the news, I speak to people, listen to their posts on Facebook, it gets me really frustrated. And I sometimes feel as though at times, have I been duped? Do the JWs have it right? But then I have to keep thinking, no, it can't be true. And I just wanted to know what your thoughts are, because I do have friends who are ex-JWs, and we all think the same. Especially with the problems that we see in the world. Is this just a phase that humanity are going through? Will it just reset? But yeah, I just wanted to know what your thoughts are. And yeah, thank you again.
Thank you very much indeed, David. That was a brilliant message and very useful for highlighting the conflict that comes with waking up, because as I've mentioned many times before, it's not just like flicking a switch where you suddenly see everything for how it is and you never get plagued by any doubts or inner conflict. You're completely impervious to any fears surrounding the apocalypse or Armageddon. You're impervious to all of that stuff. In my experience, at least, that's just not how it works, because we're talking military grade indoctrination. It's inevitable that some of it will linger and leave us doubting ourselves. Did I make the right decision? Might they be right on this one particular thing? Political instability, well, the opposite of political instability is political stability. And in the context of Bible powers or world powers spoken of in Bible prophecy, the ones that were stable were dictatorships. They were empires. They were totalitarian states, weren't they? They weren't really democracies. I know Rome had a senate, but it had an emperor as well, and the emperor was a god, was treated as a god by the Romans. The point is, the opposite of instability when it comes to politics is really totalitarianism, and you don't want that. You don't want just everyone forced to be on the same page. Who gets to decide what this page is? Who gets to decide what this way of doing things is? I'd frankly rather have the instability. I'd rather have a spectrum of opinions on how to do things, even if many of those opinions are wrong. It's better to have the conflict, because the conflict shows that there is free speech. The conflict shows that there is democracy. It's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be people with different ideas, people with rubbish ideas, people with good ideas, all figuring out what's the best way forward. Everyone just wants to build the perfect city. How do we do this? How do we achieve this? And ultimately, it boils down quite often to left or right. Are you liberal and progressive? Usually left. Are you a traditionalist? Do you like things to be done the way they've always been done? You'll lean right. You'll lean conservative. So that's pretty much the politics. And again, the fact that there is this spectrum shows that, in a way, democracy is alive and well. When it comes to the political instability as related to Bible prophecy, I think you're referring to the immense image in the book of Daniel, where you start off with the gold head, Babylon. You move on to the arms. It's Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, and then Jehovah's Witnesses believe that the feet of iron mixed with clay, which obviously isn't going to work, you can't have iron mixed with clay, that denotes the political instability of the Anglo-American world power. So I guess your question is, might it be that Jehovah's Witnesses got it right with that, with just that? Maybe it's possible that God inspired a prophecy about political instability caused by democracy in the future, in the distant future, and he decided to communicate this by talking about iron mixed with clay. But is that a very effective way of describing the current political climate in the 21st century? I can think of clearer, more coherent ways of doing that, of conveying that information, of giving a prophecy about the times that we're living in now, if you are an all-wise supreme being, than saying, oh, there's going to be this statue and there's going to be iron legs, and at the bottom of the iron legs it's going to be iron mixed with clay. Not a very efficient way of addressing the nuance of the current political climate, if you ask me personally. I mean, iron mixed with clay could mean anything. It could just mean there's an allegiance between two powers that doesn't work. Doesn't necessarily have to mean, oh, there's instability because there isn't a dictatorship, because there are democracies and people get to vote and people get to decide how they're going to do things. And when you have people voting, there isn't as much certainty. There isn't as much dictatorship. Again, I'd rather have the instability, thank you. How is that an efficient way of communicating to future generations what the political climate will be in the 21st century? I would personally argue it's a rubbish way of communicating it. It's the sort of prophecy, quite frankly, like most of the prophecies in the Bible, that could be interpreted any number of ways and still sort of sound like it makes sense. That kind of tells you all you need to know, really, about Bible prophecy. I spoke recently, I can't remember in which video, about the prophecy regarding Babylon. Oh, Babylon's going to be destroyed. It's never going to be inhabited. That happened. Babylon is completely destroyed and it's not inhabited. can't quite say that though, can we? Because if you go on Google Earth, there are people living there. Yes, but it's been destroyed. It was once a proud empire. And now it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site that's mostly piles of bricks. Okay, I'll give you that. What do we then say about Tyre? What do we then say about Egypt? What do we then say about all these other cities and nations listed in the Old Testament? What do we say about all these other nations and cities that the Old Testament writers condemned to destruction and said would never be inhabited again? What do we say about those? Are you just going to zero in on the one thing that sort of looks like it might have been fulfilled and ignore all the ones that weren't fulfilled? It's intellectually dishonest. I know you're not doing this, but it would be intellectually dishonest to take that approach, wouldn't it? Of course, if you condemn enough cities and enough nations to destruction, give it a few thousand years and eventually one of those prophecies is going to come true, but you're still left with a bunch that didn't come true. It's all exactly what you would expect when it comes to a man-made book and people making predictions without clairvoyance, without knowing exactly what's going to happen, just making it up as they go along. And I'm afraid that was the case with the prophecy of the iron mixed with clay. Could mean anything. Same as with Nostradamus. Let's just say a few vague things that could be interpreted any number of ways by future generations. That's all you really have when it comes to the Old Testament. And even if we can somehow argue that the iron mixed with clay was an accurate prediction regarding the current political climate in the 21st century, that still doesn't get us to, Jehovah's Witnesses are God's one and only true people, chosen by Jesus invisibly in 1919 to be the faithful slave. Still doesn't get you to that. All you're doing is proving the Bible's authenticity. You're not proving in any way, shape or form that 8 dudes in New York have any kind of power over 8.5 million people all over the world. I think you know all this. I think you have figured most of this out yourself. It's maybe just one of those situations where it's nice to hear it from someone else, just to know that you're not going mad. Again, when you're dealing with all this residual indoctrination. And I've been there, I understand what it's like. But the cure for all of this indecision and internal conflict and dealing with residual indoctrination is research. Research, research, research. The more you remind yourself of these arguments, of the many, many reasons why it can't possibly be God's one and only true organization, the easier it will be to deal with these internal struggles. But that's all I have to say on this particular voicemail. I hope you found it useful. If you would like to leave a voicemail, the thing to do is go to speakpipe.com/Cedars, remembering to indicate clearly if you do not want me to broadcast your voicemail on my channel. But please do subscribe to the Lloyd Evans channel for more videos like this, and as always, thank you for watching.